Welcome to the Wealthy Retailer Podcast. My name is Dan Holman, and my guest today is Leanne Mohagen from Simone Ivy.
Yes.
Yeah. Simone Ivy. Leanne, welcome. Thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate it. And can't wait to hear this story because you, like a few of our guests, it's kind of strange, are not really a retailer.
I'm a retailer in disguise. I'm not a retailer.
You weren't a retailer. You are now.
Actually, yeah. And you know, I feel like the word retailer is misused in so many ways because retail sounds so, well, right now in our economy, retail is what everyone shies away from.
Sure.
But I was thinking about it earlier and I'm like, what am I really doing here? Am I like a retailer? Am I an entrepreneur? And just this morning thinking about coming here and being like, I don't know what I'm going to talk about when I come here. I don't know what you're going to ask. But I was kind of thinking, just in the world of people.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm doing that through retail.
We're in the business of people without really farming out people because I think that's also frowned upon nowadays.
Yep. yes. Oh, not that word.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. And so you chose kind of home, define Simone Ivy for me.
Got it. So Simone Ivy is, we call it everything interior. So my previous 15 years or so has been in an entrepreneurial world, which I surely didn't grow up in, but I feel like the word entrepreneur has just become really popular and kind of a buzzword in the last 10 years, but I grew up on a farm. There's four of us, three siblings and myself, and I'm the miracle. I'm 15, 14, and 10 years younger than my siblings, and so growing up I was the accident, but now that's not allowed to say anymore, I'm just a miracle. And so my family was a farm family, and I think that, I guess that's an entrepreneur, and so that's something that I guess was in my blood, but as time went on, I ended up, getting a kinesiology degree, and then following my childhood dream of selling window coverings for about 13 years. And so, how do you go from farm girl to kines degree to selling blinds and drapery?
Right.
And it was really just an accident. I think that I just loved people and I loved business and I loved the numbers. And I guess by accident, through osmosis, growing up with my family, making a living for themselves, which is called farming.
Yes.
Or being an entrepreneur.
Sure.
After I accidentally stumbled upon a business, a company who was already running in the city that I was living in. It was a franchise. I much like things like today where you're like, do you want to? And I say yes, but I don't know what I'm signing up for. I talked to a couple who owned a franchise and I talked to them for a couple hours, called the franchise the next day, remortgaged the house, had a 1 and 2 year old and thought, yep, let's do this. Let's buy into this franchise. And so I did, sold window coverings, loved it, loved so much about it. So I guess that's a different form of retail because it was in-home sales.
Right.
And so when I moved here back to Alberta, I thought I wanted to do that again. And what was weird is I missed window coverings. And then I realized, it's not window coverings per se. It's like going into customers' homes and really connecting with them. And so I thought, what can I do here? Found a bit of a need for a store or a place that you could go that made you feel good. So for anybody who's ever moved away from your home, so when I came here, I didn't really know anyone. I moved here with my 3 daughters, got remarried, so new relationship, new environment, trying to find new friends. And when I was living in my past city where I owned my businesses, there was a couple stores that I would go into that just made me feel good when I was having a bad day. I called them bad day stores. And just stores that, you would always find something that would kind of fill whatever void you needed that day. And so when I moved here, I felt like there was a bit of a void in that area. And so I thought, you know what, I'm gonna sell some window coverings and I'm gonna, interior design and interior styling and making things look good seemed to be something that I was pretty good at. But again, kines degree, no actual education in this department. And so I opened up a company called Simone Ivy, and everybody wants to know who's Simone Ivy, or Simon and Ivory, or however it comes out when people talk about it. But Simone and Ivy are named after my mom and my grandma, and the tagline is beautiful living. And I think it just really comes from, what does a beautiful life look like? For a lot of people, that might be furniture, their homes, or more about how you live your life is what I was trying to recreate. So that when you came into that store, no matter what was happening in the external world, you would always feel good when you came into that store. So that's Simone and Ivy.
Yeah, okay, I'm gonna share this with you. I was there last night at your store. Something I'm really, really, really proud of you and super, I mean, I have so much admiration for, this idea of collaboration and pulling, other businesses together inside your business and allowing them to utilize your space to promote themselves. I mean, it's just so admirable. But so there I am last night talking with someone, and she said to me, man, this is a beautiful store. And I said, I mean, it is just how it has evolved is, it's almost unbelievable how it evolved. And she said, you feel good here. So I'm going to say to you, mission accomplished.
Good,
when a woman stands in a store and says, I feel good here, and me, a middle-aged white dude standing in the middle of a store going, yeah, okay, I don't know if I get that here with furniture and florals and super
everything.
Yes, yeah. But so mission accomplished, great job. And again, I'm really proud that I don't know if we've seen someone come into a community like this and find their way into a community.
Yeah.
Almost everyone that I come in contact with here in St. Albert knows of Simone Ivy, knows of Leanne. Not everyone has been in the store, which they all need a kick in the rear end to get in.
Replay.
They need to get in and check the store out and feel what it feels like to be surrounded by, I want to say the smile. The welcoming feel good that your store is. So, good for you for seeing that come to fruition. And
thank you.
We'll replay that. Get your ass in the store.
It is
so that
a lot of work.
There.
It's so much, and I feel like mission accomplished. That's really important. But I did have somebody else, another entrepreneur, say to me last night, the team that you have here, you don't fabricate that. You don't make that up. The energy is really good. And when I listen to podcasts all the time, so this is really,
So you know exactly what you're doing right now.
I guess I do, but mostly it's just, I've been listening to a lot of podcasts and people, some of the people, my mentors that I listen to on podcasts, they always talk about following your dream and finding what you love and then follow that dream. And so oddly enough, just this morning I was having a conversation with one of my my go-to people. And there's only a couple go-to people. We talk about, you and I have these conversations where as an entrepreneur, it's so lonely. So you have these people that love you, like my husband, for example, and would support me no matter what, but doesn't have any entrepreneurial background or he doesn't really get that. And then there's entrepreneurs who just don't know, and you don't know if they love you or if you should confide. And so to find those few go-to people is really what, it makes up the ability for me to keep functioning on a daily basis. But I was talking to her this morning and I said, I'm listening to these podcasts and I don't have a background in interior design and blinds and window coverings and floral, all things I love, and I'm so happy about this feeling, but I don't know, is that what I really love? And as retailers, as entrepreneurs, we question ourselves all the time. And what she said to me, because she's known me throughout my entrepreneurial journey, she said, you know what you're doing? You are doing what you love, because actually, she goes, from the outside, when I look at you, your love and your passion is to create a place for other people to do what they love. And so I think that was kind of, what I needed to hear this morning. And funny that it just comes out as a retail location.
It does kind of, doesn't it? And the funny thing, when I kind of grew up in the furniture business. I say I grew up, but I really found my way inside furniture. And I was, maybe 97 or 98, I was working with a mentor at the time, a coach, and her name was Tony. And Tony said to me, and I know this is going to sound like no kidding, but she said to me, your business is not about furniture. It's about people. I mean, more importantly, it's about homes. So your business is not about furniture. It's about homes and rooms and the people that are in there. And the part that I love so much about retail today is the people. And I sort of talked about the smiles in your store last night, and what I really meant were those smiling faces that is your team. That every one of them was engaging, and not just engaging, but attractive. And you wanted to talk to them and you wanted to hear what they had to say. And that doesn't come easy, finding those people.
I feel, I don't know if we're trying to, inspire other retailers or say like what's working, but I know that I don't know a lot right now because our business is so only a year ago this month, was this an idea for me?
Sure.
And so much like other personalities that I know, I'm like, okay, I have an idea and I'm going to do it. And then I just do it. And then I try to pick up the pieces later and figure out all of the process. But, so for what's happening in the energy within our team, that has happened in such a short period of time. I mean, I have owned a business and had a team before, and I know that those things, when you get that mesh like that, you can't fabricate that. There's, when it comes to leadership and all of the team meetings and inspiring people, you can do all of that, but if they don't mesh themselves, and so I feel absolutely blessed and thankful that there is a future. And so we had our team meeting this week, and I said to them, it's really hard for us because all we hear around us is how awful the economy is, and how companies are shutting down, and companies similar to us and companies different than us and companies within our business that aren't having Christmas parties. And I just said to them, you guys, I don't give a shit.
Right.
I don't care what's happening out there. In here, it's different, and we're going to find out what people want, what people need, and we're going to deliver that to them. And just to see the look on my team's face, and it's like everybody puts up their sword, like all, and when I look at them and they look at me, we all know that we're on the same team. And so for us, for me, entrepreneurship and retail is about selling people. I am selling those people, and they're selling themselves. And so, we happen to be doing that in the furniture world or interior design or inspiration within a home. Whether that be through floral or whatever it is.
Right.
So to me, that just comes back to, by far, my most important core belief.
I want to ask you about how you've transitioned. So you called yourself new.
Yep.
Maybe a year ago, you had this vision that you've now, I don't know if you've delivered on that vision, but you've delivered on a vision.
Yep.
How have you maneuvered in the last 12 months, more specifically in the last 6?
6 months
because I think that the store has changed from opening day, to what today looks like.
Yep. Definitely it has changed. And again, there are some things that will never change. And number one, that my number one priority is relationships, relationships with our internal team, relationships with our customers. That will never change. That is one thing that I know for sure. But what has changed in this store is really just listening to what the people are telling us. And what the people are telling us is, I kind of came out, and Dan, I know that you are a strong believer. I came out with, I'm going to put into the store 75 different concepts. And then I'm going to see what the people tell us.
Right.
And then we're going to go with that concept. And you said, maybe we should start with 5 or 6 concepts. And so I pared it down, and I went back to, those 5, everything interior, everything that you can put in your home. And really out of those concepts, whether it be the retail or the furniture or the design side, the customers tell us what they need.
Right.
And that's really, how do I know that? That's what the books tell us.
Right.
And so I think that is one thing I've learned through retail and through entrepreneurialism for a long time, is that it doesn't matter how you feel about some things. You really need to listen to what people want. And no matter if it was in your business plan, and your business plan is a 12-month business plan, sometimes you change that in 2 months.
Sure.
And so I feel like, back to putting out 75 things, I feel like you just change quickly, see what they're saying, try different things. And if that works, just keep doing more of that and less of what's not working.
And so, when we think about listening to that customer, do you feel like you have enough customer data to now say, I know what my next 12 months looks like?
The answer is, of course, no.
Right.
I mean, we're new. We're still 6 months old, and I think this is one of the things as a retailer that I find a little bit disheartening, because before it was in-home sales, it was a little bit different for me. But still, we need people to pick up the phone and call, or we need people to drive their car to our store. And so, I really chose this community because I loved the hominess of it. Even though it's a city, it's really a town for me, and that felt comfortable, and the support that everyone has for each other. And so, we're 10 minutes, everyone who I know who lives in the city is 10 minutes from our store, and I see people all the time, they're like, oh my gosh, how's it going? I have been meaning to come in there. And I'm like, meaning to come in there, and I think as a retailer, what I learned from myself, because retail is new for me, is I didn't think in the mindset of, as a consumer, I didn't think in the mindset that I now do.
Right.
And so one of the things that I find, one of my ways that I would like to communicate I'm very passionate about, is explaining to our city, what does it mean to be a small business? What does it mean to support a small business? What does it mean when we don't get the first chance and an online company doesn't? And I'm excited to share what that really means, because I didn't realize it either. I
Right.
didn't know it. So I can't really shame people about it, because I didn't know 6 months ago either what it meant. But I do know what it means is that, we're brand new. I'm talking, I invested my kids' college foundation, my entire heart into this business. And as funny as it is,
it's true.
It's not funny. It's true. And I worked, created a really great business and saved up some money, and boom, right back in. And so,
listen, laughter is how emotion sometimes gets out.
Or crying, or we're like, exactly.
We laugh or cry every single day. Yes.
Exactly. And so when we opened this store, all of a sudden, in the last 3 to 4 months, I probably have, on average, if not, I'm on the humble side of average, 3 to 4 people coming into our store asking for donations back into our community.
Right. And
there's nothing more that I love than being generous. And again, that's what my mom and my family's taught me, is just generosity, giving. And it's just interesting, because people will come in and ask, and I'll talk to them about, what they're looking for, where they come from. Are you from a hockey team? Have you been in the store before? No, I haven't been in the store before, but here's the ask. And so for me as a retailer, and I used to be the asker, can you donate to us? And I didn't realize that, without that support from our local community, we can't give back into our local community, onto our hockey teams, and we're doing the best we can. We're still supporting. I think we have about 8 foundations now that we've supported as much as we can. So that's something that's really near and dear to my heart, is that I want to be able to support the employees or the team members and their families to go on and be able to contribute back into our community, and most importantly, to continue to give back to our community, so it is a place people want to stay and want to thrive in.
I think we have to employ. We have to not employ. We have to. How do I want to say that without really pissing somebody off? It is imperative that the community gets behind the local retailer. It's disheartening when someone comes to me, and listen, I have these same exact challenges that you do.
Yep.
I have retailers that come to me,
I don't think you and I are not different from any retailer on the planet, right?
We're the same.
Exactly. Yeah.
People come to me and say, I need your help. I need support from the local community, and then they buy product on Amazon, and I say, wait a minute. You want the community to support you, but you go and buy your product from Amazon.
Yeah.
Why would the consumer support you if you're not really doing that in turn? And so we need to get them. They need to recognize how important it is.
I feel like it's not because they do it out of a disheartening place,
right? No, it's not malicious.
It's because they don't understand.
They don't know. Yeah, they don't know what they don't know. And it's our job to tell them that if you want, my name on the back of your kid's hockey jersey, if you want, if I need you to support the hospital foundation,
ask 2 times.
I have to push people, to come and support your store, and I also have to be a support mechanism to that store. And it isn't always about me coming and spending money, but it's me making sure that every time I hear someone is looking for something that's relative to you, that's where they go.
Yeah.
That becomes part of our circle.
Absolutely.
And it's whether it's your store or Bella Moss or Sweet or Rev or whoever it is, that we know that we have this tight little group of independent business people, entrepreneurs, retailers, or whatever form we want to talk about, that are supported by our customer base.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. The other thing that I'm understanding now as a retailer with my 75 ideas is that what I want to do from my end and take responsibility from my side, why aren't you coming into my store? Or why aren't you buying from my store? And so if it's, Amazon or Wayfair, who crushes us sometimes is, why are you choosing that? And then really understanding how can we fill that void. And so I think it's one of 2 things, right? It's us changing, providing to the customer what they need. Mm-hmm. So I love shopping online at night in bed in my pajamas. And okay, great. So I'm hearing that. That's why a lot of those places are working. So we're definitely venturing into the online format. And so I'm trying to, 2-way, explain to people how important it is to get into our store, but also why aren't you? And I feel like that's, as an entrepreneur, to hear those things, or as a retailer, I'm not there because can be a little bit personal and a little bit emotional, but I'm so far past that. It's more of it's a game for me.
Right.
Oh, you're not. Well, let me fix that for
Let
you.
me
So
fix it.
I want to eliminate every challenge that
Let's
customers
remove all
have.
of these obstacles that you keep
Yeah.
throwing up, or that
Yeah.
customers throw up without even knowing that
And
they're doing
I
it.
do the same thing.
Right.
I understand
Right.
I understand why online shopping, and I understand the ease of that,
Right.
and the plethora of options on there. I think it's just important as retailers and a retailer community, small business community, is really just to share that. And you tell me all the time, and I think this is something, when people say, as a retailer, it's such a humbling experience, because people will say to you all the time, like, same conversation, how is the store going? Oh my God, the store it's amazing, it's so good. And you always corrected me. You said, you know what, Leanne, you need to stop and you need to say, it would be a lot better if we had more people come through the door.
If we had more people walking through the door.
And that is the truth, but there's that part of, for small business people, or people in general, that gets in the way, and it's our ego. Yeah.
And this facade that we throw out there that, oh, it's great, everything is so good, I'm so happy to be in business.
Yes.
Except I cried myself to sleep last night. I really have no idea when this ulcer is going to get fixed. I keep making things worse. And we're sitting in a room with business people, right? So people get what we're talking about.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, and I feel like, and it is funny, because that ego is kind of to just put it on autopilot business. I have the same elevator speech. It's so good. But then the people that I know and the other business people, it's funny because on every podcast I've listened to and every person I know, being an entrepreneur is the loneliest place on the planet. And so I found a lot of relief from that loneliness by actually dropping my ego and just saying, you know what, some days really suck. Like, I haven't slept in 3 months. And you and I have talked about before, it's some kind of mental illness. It's an entrepreneurial mental illness. We all suffer from it, and it's multiple personalities. And so we go through this roller coaster, and I talk about my poor husband. He's just, he works a job that he knows his shifts and his hours from now until he retires at 55. He knows how much he's going to give, and it's just so consistent.
Probably one of the most important jobs in the world. I mean, he's out there. I mean, he's
saving
happy.
lives.
He's happy to jump into a burning building, and I'm setting it on fire and hoping.
Yes,
he's around.
I set things on fire every day, and our whole life is like that. And so for him to see, like, one day I will just be literally in a puddle, just like the fetal position, and just be like, I don't know what I did. I'm sorry. I know you didn't sign up for this. And he's just like, he doesn't want to come too close. Like, he wants to be there. So it's kind of like this. It's okay, babe. It's okay. Can I get you? And like my mom, she used to feed us when we were sad, and so he comes out with, like, do you want a coffee? Do you want a wine? And I was like, I don't know. Nothing's gonna help. And then the next day, I wake up and he's still like arms like this, and I'm like, oh my God. I'm brilliant. I am sitting on a gold mine. I have so much.
I figured it out.
I've totally figured it out. And so, people who aren't in that world, really, I feel like sometimes the facade of, oh, everything's great, is because they don't actually want to know.
They don't really want to hear what it is.
It's a lot, and they don't get it. Yeah. I know, and I don't want to spew that. The only other people who care are other entrepreneurs who are like, oh, I get you.
Yeah, you have a connection to them.
Yeah, for sure.
So I want to ask you this. I think, I recognize that you put yourself out there when you came here.
Yeah.
And not here in this building, but when you came to St. Albert and you decided that you wanted to do this, you put yourself out there, and you might think it's fate, that you met John and Terry.
Yeah.
You might think it's fate that you met, the other entrepreneurs that are in your life right now.
Yeah.
But for those retailers that are listening and going, I don't know what to do, I can tell them, come and talk to Leanne. She's having, the level of success she's having is because she put herself out there.
Yeah.
There's no luck in it.
Yeah.
It's not fate.
Yeah.
Whether you believe it or not, and you might be a fateful person, but I'm not. I believe that you put yourself out there and the stars aligned. And maybe that is fate, but if you didn't put yourself out there, if you didn't align yourself with these people that I feel like, you have done really well by.
I have a pretty good team behind me.
Right.
Yeah.
But those people are out there.
They're out there. I feel like it's just taking the risk. And if you're not an entrepreneur, I think that, and I keep saying it, entrepreneur is a buzzword, because growing up, I'm going to be honest with you, and I don't even know if we heard the word entrepreneur. I think that that's a new word, but if you owned your own business, that's because you didn't know what you were going to do when you grew up. kind of,
Yeah.
right? If you lived in a small town and you were an entrepreneur, and now I feel everybody like it's
Everybody
cool
wants
now.
to do
Everybody
it.
wants to be an entrepreneur,
Right.
but entrepreneur, like it's not. You know, I don't want to say it's awful, but there's times where it's awful,
Right.
and there's times where you know, I think that the only reason I keep doing it, and we keep doing it, and we keep putting ourselves out there and keep risking and keep believing and dreaming, is because we know that the highs are just as high as the lows.
Right.
And so when you get, it's like that, you know, gateway drug almost, where
It is.
that it's you're addicted to that high, and I think that part of that is the stress. Part of that is the challenge. We're competitive people. We are dreamers. We are believers. We're creators. We're very, very creative people. And I feel like the only thing that can keep this level of energy or this level of this pace going for entrepreneurs like ourselves is other people and relationships.
And relationships.
And
for sure.
so part of what I love and hate about myself is how naive I am. You know, I don't understand why it wouldn't work. Like, you know, everybody's like, well, here's why and why. And I'm like, you give me 20 reasons, I'll give you 21 why it's going to work.
Right.
And I mean, you met me in that stage, right?
Of
You
course.
met me. You met me when
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to do this, and you're like, you got to hold back. I'm like, too late. I already signed the lease. And so now you're going to help me do it.
Right.
And so I feel like coming back to relationships and finding, as a retailer, you need to find other people who are there to support, understand the same challenges, but not find the retailers or people who are working for themselves who are there to increase the bitching and complaining. And for me, I think that's a slippery slope, because we get so many small business owners. I mean, here in every city I've ever been in, I traveled to the US for 2 years and worked with small business owners, shared my story, shared a few things that worked and didn't work so that they could or couldn't make the same mistakes. Because I had lots, like I could go on for like podcast 20 hours about the mistakes I've made. And so
I'm going to make one more later on today, I'm sure of it.
Every day, you're like, a few mistakes are fine.
Yep.
But just being able to make sure that you find the people who are aligned with your core values and your beliefs. So whether it be, I'm going to make this work, irregardless of what every news channel is saying and irregardless of what's happening to our economy, I could spend all of my time, you know, thriving and being like, oh my gosh, my kids aren't going to school. Or I could take the same amount of energy and be like, who else in town is not giving up? I want to know more about them. I want to know about, you know, the people who've been here for 8 years or 10 years. Or you mentioned John and Terry, the landlords of our space. You know, they were in business for, I think, 30 or 40 years in town, and they were in a business that was so competitive when we talk about margin. And so when I'm in one of those days, you know, and I have my go-tos, I talk about my go-tos, John and Terry are my go-tos, and they accidentally became friends because of their, you know, I appreciate so much about them because they truly do it for the people. And they make decisions based on what's right. And I think that, you know, those are the people. So, you know, there's a big business group of us here, but it's really finding those few people that really align with what you envision and where you want to go. So I think that that's important, not to get stuck in the other alignment.
Well, I think if we look for the bad, if we look for the negative, if we look for the what's not going to work, man, oh man, it's everywhere.
Everywhere.
It is everywhere. We can figure that out. But if we look to, you know, the positive, what is working, and those people that are committed, no matter what, come hell or high water, this is going to work. You know, there's opportunities that present themselves that we had no idea existed. And when we open ourselves up, like I think this is what one of the things I admire most about you is your ability just to open yourself up. And I continue to say, be vulnerable. There's nothing wrong with being vulnerable. And allow people to come in and do what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to support. They're supposed to help. They're supposed to be that, you know, that catapult for us. And I feel the same way in my business is whatever we're doing, I feel the same way. I want people to feel like they have an obligation to support because we are going to do something great for them at some point.
And I think that the key is that when we want to do something great, it's like the true meaning of doing something great for someone else is not expecting anything in return. And so I do truly believe in that. And sometimes to be completely honest, sometimes you're like, hey, and I mean, Gary Vaynerchuk, you know, he's my like online love, right? And so I love and I listen to him. And one of the things I learned years and years and years ago that changed one of the things that changed my past business from going from good to great was his rule of give,
Sure.
take.
Take.
And so, you know, the other thing I was talking about this morning when I talked to my go-tos, we all have a lot to say in 10 minutes, but we were talking about, you know, how long do you have to give before you can take again? And how, you know, and sometimes and I just said this morning, I'm like, gosh, what I really am realizing is that this is a marathon and it's not a sprint. And that's really hard for people who come from that background because we are doers and go-getters, and so we want that immediate gratification.
Yeah. And that person that's a quick start doesn't recognize, you know, that it's not only is it okay, but I need to slow down.
Yep.
Otherwise, otherwise the turtle passes me.
Yeah.
Right. And we need to take that ability, that time to slow down and see things through. And I've said this to you before. I mean, this is just practice. This is warm up. This isn't the game yet.
Yeah.
You know, the game hasn't started.
Which is like exciting and depressing all at once.
It is, isn't it? It is.
It is.
Right. I mean, I get re-energized every day when I think, it's okay, we're just practicing.
It's true.
The game hasn't started yet.
Yeah.
It's going to start tomorrow.
Yeah.
And, you know, maybe tomorrow doesn't come. And maybe I get to keep practicing. And maybe I get to keep making things better. And that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah. I feel like it's just about just not wanting that immediate gratification, which is really hard for our personalities.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
But it's also, I mean, it's also what push, you know, when people say, and I think part of the stress, and it comes back down to ego, is that in my past I've had success in a lot of the different business opportunities, but it was a very different business model. And so this one's a little bit different. And so there comes that ego where you want that success right away. And I feel like the one thing when you talk about slowing down is that when I started this, it was a sprint. And what I realized when you're in the fetal position, you know, in a puddle of snot, is that, holy cow, as a retailer, I need to take care of myself.
Right.
And that was that's just one of the things that's really on top of mind for me in the last couple months is, as I take care of myself, it's been really interesting. You mentioned my team, and I mentioned my team because they're unbelievable, and I'm again re-energized by them. But when I took a step back and realized this isn't a sprint, I need to take a step back, look at it from 50,000 feet. What are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? And I was giving myself some self-care and dropping the ego, being vulnerable, encouraging everybody else to be vulnerable and also to take care of themselves in whatever way that meant for them. That's when everybody was like, oh, okay, like a big deep breath, we got this. And you know, as much as I try to challenge my team, I don't want them to live in fear.
Right. And you know this, Leanne, you can't fill their bucket up with your bucket if there's nothing in it.
I feel like that's such a dumb saying. Like, it just kept going on and on and on. And then I was like, nothing else is working. I'll try that.
I'll try it.
I'll try taking care of myself.
I've been beating my head against the wall for a long time, and now let me just see what happens when I do actually look after myself. And when you get filled up yourself, when you give yourself that opportunity, boy, oh boy, you really have a lot to give other people.
And it's just so much. The reason, I think, for me anyways, is that the reason I hadn't been doing that is guilt. So it's like, you know, as a mother, when you have children, it's just like a new world, a new level of guilt opens up. You feel bad about everything. It's like, Simone Ivy is my baby.
Right.
And so for me to step away from the business and not be there 24/7 and not being on the floor or working on a team or working in a customer's house, and to step back, I felt guilty. I felt I didn't deserve an hour in the gym, or I felt I didn't deserve an hour to actually read a book. Or, I mean, okay, so I haven't read a book, let's be honest. But
okay, I haven't been to the gym.
I know, okay, there. We're good partner. Anyways. Okay, now it's confessions. I also...
Retail Confessions 101.
Exactly.
I've been drinking a little bit.
Every day. No, I'm just kidding. Dan, not me. I've been going to the gym. But it really has been like... And where that guilt comes from, and I'm sure I feel like every retailer must feel this if you have a team, is that it comes from a place of in here.
Yes.
And so I would go through these stories, and now I've been explaining them to my team, because anytime I can help myself, I try to share that with, you know what worked for me, if this helps for you. Because if we're the owner or we're the employer, whoever we are, we're still humans. We go through the same things. And so I would go through this guilt thing where I said to them, I'd be vulnerable and say, guys, I'm going to be away a couple hours tomorrow. I need to take care of myself. I need to take care of some things on the back end of the business. And I'm telling you because I want you to know I'm still working. And I would go through that. And they were just like looking at me like, you know, lady, if you need to take a walk, just go. You don't need to explain to us. You know, but I still felt that guilt. Yeah. And so then I would be like, okay, I'm going to go for a couple hours or an hour, and I'm not going to tell them why I'm going, because I realized they didn't care. I could tell. And so then I was like, okay, so then I would go, and while I was gone, Dan, I would create these stories in myself. When I come back to the office, I bet they're going to be thinking, and I would have this full conversation with myself. Yep. And you know, it's been 2 months, and now I'm able to share with them some of the conversations I had with them. And when I got back, they'd be like, "Hey, glad you're back. Good to see you." I'm like, okay, they weren't thinking all of that. And so what's so funny and crying again, or laughing or crying, is that it really is just like we're just screwing with ourselves as the owners.
Right.
Is that we put so much pressure on ourselves to be everything, and then you realize that just being yourself is enough.
It's actually more than enough.
Yeah.
It's quite all right.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, you asked, you know, how much do I have to put in before I can take out?
Yeah.
There's no answer.
True.
You just keep
that's
putting
the marathon
in.
Again.
That's the marathon. You just keep putting in.
Exactly.
I mean, I think we've had this conversation with producer Rob. You just keep putting stuff in the bank.
Yeah.
And when the bank is full, you'll get something back. And it is, you know, Bob Negan from you know, Whiz Bang Bob. Everybody loves Whiz Bang Bob. Yeah. But he talks about the rule of reciprocity. You give before you get. You just give. Yeah. And we put things in that bank all the time. And we do that for our staff, we do that for our customers.
Yeah.
And with the faith, with the knowledge, it'll pay us back.
Yeah. And I feel like that is one thing that's never steered me wrong, or you.
Right.
And the other thing that's never steered me wrong is hard work.
Oh, there's no substitute.
And so I feel like that's where, you know, I've really seen a lot of different small business owners over the last 15 years, and 2 years specifically, working with small business owners to be successful. And that is the one thing that you can tell is going to make or break a true entrepreneur.
Right.
So, you know, if you did this, I think that you would have some good success. Wow, I don't have time for that. So you don't have time to be successful. So I'm hearing those conversations from all of the years and coming back to me, you know, I should be doing something, and as soon as I should be, I know I should be.
I should have already started it.
Yeah. And so it comes back to that, you know, self-check-in, and hard work's never failed me wrong. So.
Right on. Yeah. I got to tell you, I really have enjoyed this conversation,
and
it's not over yet, I'm sure. Thank you for coming. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Leanne from Simone Ivy.